It's a fun year in one of the conferences. Slowing us down a little bit. So tell me when everybody's ready. We'll good. So, Ed, want to go ahead and tell them who's going to play?
I'll be happy to. Good afternoon, everyone. Got some great news for our matchup. December 29th, 5:30 on ESPN. You're going to see Florida State University versus Oklahoma, two iconic, long traditional football teams. We're very excited to host them. So with that, if there's any questions, we're excited about it.
Now we can handle them all at once. If you want us to jump into the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, we'll do that real quick. So, yeah.
The choice for Florida State, no-brainer. They're regional, local, but just talk about that a little bit and get the Seminoles here after the year.
Yeah, it's been a while for us here in the bowl business, but they've earned it is the main thing. When you look at the ranking, you look at the record, and Notre Dame's a fantastic team as well, and those are the choices that we had, and we've had a great run with Notre Dame here as well. So Florida State, and we just look at the record, look at the ranking, that was a team we believe earned it from our ACC partnership, so that's the direction the board wanted to go and the selection committee went.
Steve, obviously Florida State's going to be here next year to kick off things. How much of this was that part of the discussion about having them maybe back-to-back scenarios here in the stadium?
That was absolutely the discussion. We talked very early with our picks about that. As you know, LSU in one of our games is also a pick of interest in the SEC, and so with Florida State, we wanted to know, how do you feel about that and returning here in September? And not one single bit of doubt that impacted this negatively in any single way. So they were gung-ho on. We believe we've earned the trip. We want to be there, be proud to play in the Cheez-It Bowl, and so that kind of helped us clear the way and make the selection for Florida State.
Steve, with the selection with Oklahoma in that game, obviously there's a draw with Dylan Gabriel being their quarterback. If you could give us a little peek behind the curtain, is that a discussion you have with one of these programs with a guy like that with a tie about getting a commitment for him in the game with, opt-outs being such a thing now in college football?
Yeah, opt-outs are going to happen, I think. So that really wasn't the consideration. We looked at where we were. In the Big 12, traditionally, we picked second in their lineup after the college football playoff. We're used to having teams that are ranked in the top 25 here and, 8-9 wins. This wasn't a year like that, so that the teams available to us, I would say we're all for the most part, equal. Although there was a head-to-head win there with Texas Tech. There was a lot of discussion there, a lot of respect for Texas Tech. That game went in overtime, so we felt like either one of them could be viewed as 7-5, 6-6. So it felt like a right fit with some of those other storylines to go with Oklahoma, and that's the side we aired on.
Steve, it's obviously great to get an in-state team like a Florida State here, but also you're getting a Florida State team that is clearly on the rise. It's not the team that necessarily back into a bowl game. How much more significant is that for you?
Well, that's awesome. Again, you got a team that's really put on a show this year. It's a huge power brand nationally, a lot of respect. They're on the way up, a lot of excitement. You think about the ability to play a kid here that played at UCF and that combination, those two helmets. I think for both schools, there's a lot on the line. And a win here in this game would be significant in how it tees up next year's teams and the success in recruiting. So it's a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a lot of fun with Florida State to get them in a year like this. I think they're going to keep it going from here. And so to see them here on the way up, maybe they're going to spend a long time in the playoff from here on out. And we'd love to be the bump that usually Orlando is. So it's good to have Florida State.
How much does history play a part of your decision, Steve? Obviously Florida State and Oklahoma have a history playing a national championship years ago, and then obviously with Florida State being here several times in games, how much does that kind of maybe play a factor a little bit when you guys are considering it?
Well, it's absolutely a consideration. Those two helmets together is a consideration. Although I'd point out with Texas Tech, I think Bobby Bowden's first bowl game ever was here in the Tangerine Bowl with Texas Tech and Florida State. So there's history with both of them, and that came up. So, you love those kind of storylines, but, it just clearly Florida State and Oklahoma, the way that season wound up in the Big 12, this just seemed like a game that would be nationally interesting, nationally significant, a lot of storylines, and then to some degree here locally with Dylan Gabriel. So Brent Venables been here a while. Was on the opposite side of the ball as a defensive coordinator back in 2016 when Clemson came here and played Oklahoma. So a lot of cool and fun stuff, and it just seemed like the right mix after we made the Florida State selection. Perfect. We'll talk a little bit about Cheez-It Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, sure. Also, for the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl on the 2nd of January this year, 1 o'clock, we will be hosting LSU as well as Purdue. So inviting those two teams in. Excited about that matchup. True traditional teams again, so I think we've got some great bowl games coming up here in Orlando, City Beautiful. We're excited about all of the matchups. So with that, I'll pass it back along to Steve for any comments.
Steve, obviously LSU has a history here a little bit. Brian Kelly has a history here. He was here playing last time. I think the last time he was here, he was playing LSU in the history. How attractive an option is it getting a team like LSU, which is having a breakout season in the first year under Brian Kelly, and maybe bringing that along as well?
Yeah, I think, again, a division winner, both cases, the Big Ten and the SEC, so you have a successful team, the most successful team in that division to represent them in the championship games. That's significant. Spent a lot of time in LSU's case in the playoff picture, I think ahead of schedule maybe some would say for Coach Kelly. So, they earned it. Both of them earned it. And in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, that's a position that we take very seriously. When you look at that and some of the head-to-heads, these were the natural choices to make. And I think, if you look at how both of those teams played the championship games, no players quit. They went to the last minute, regardless of score. This is going to be fun. You look at what Purdue did last year in the bowl game against Tennessee, and it was a light show, went into overtime. They spread it out a little bit different than a traditional Big Ten team. So I think these two guys getting together and Coach Kelly coming back and the storylines of he's just coaching a different team in the same game. It's all fun, right? But I think it all begins and ends with the fact that both of these teams earned it.
Steve, these are two teams that played for conference championship yesterday, but it wasn't one where they were in discussion for the playoffs. So what kind of impact do you think that has on kind of the expectance and energy going into this matchup?
Well, I think, both of them have a hunger now for capping off a season. And, both would consider a successful season. Certainly didn't finish the way that LSU wanted. I would say that probably if you said at the beginning of the year, you're going to potentially be playing in traditional game like the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, they'd be like, wow, that's ahead of schedule, right? So we're happy for both of them. Purdue, same way. So although disappointed, I don't think it takes anything out of this. We keep hearing from both schools, they're hungry for this, that this is really, really important for them to cap off their season. And in this case, a potential 10-win season with LSU keeps coming up as meaningful, matters, really tees up next year. So I'm excited to see these two get hungry. Got a lot of time here for them to kind of warm up to this, and the fans coming down here to a warmer climate. It's good. I mean, I love this. I love the way this worked out.
You were talking storylines in the previous bowl game. Was there ever any discussion with Jeff Brom being a former Orlando Predators quarterback back in the XFL coming back here?
That didn't come up one time, I can tell you. But it is cool now that you said it. I'm sure Sam and the group here, we'll get to work on that right away. But a little bit of a homecoming there, right? That might make it fun. But he's exciting, and what he's doing there is exciting in Big Ten football, so that'll be fun.
LSU and Purdue have played in this game before and traditionally have two really outstanding traveling fan bases. So from your perspective, that's a plus.
It is, and we've been blessed to have LSU a few times. Purdue, lit us up. Those of you that were here, I think it was Georgia the last time they were here in the Citrus Bowl, and amazing crowd, just huge traveling fan base. The Big Ten championship was essentially a home game. Didn't need to really travel all that far to get to Indianapolis, so that was helpful. So we expect huge crowds to come from both. And, what we want as much as anything is them to have a great weather week here, which you guys got to promise us. But second, let's put up a light show on the scoreboard. I want to see them throw it all over the field. I know ABC won't want to hear this, but we're going to go into overtime, and that'd be one heck of a way to cap off the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl.
Steve, you and I talked about this a couple months ago, but obviously with NIL and everything going on with that, how much of an impact do you guys think that will have in your bowl games? And you talk about opt-outs and players leaving. Will you try to incorporate NIL in some way, shape, or form surrounding these two bowl games?
We absolutely want to use and be a part of the NIL system moving forward. And we are deep in that. We're not yet there where we want to be. We will be soon. There's a lot of learning that's been going on in NIL for everybody. But I'm excited about what it can do for the teams, for the players, for opportunities. We see it as a real energy source around the philanthropy. We think tying, giving some kids an opportunity through NIL, having them promote, us promote, but promoting even a cause like Lift Orlando here in and around the neighborhoods around the stadium, we see as a perfect fit for the student athlete. Once they learn about what Lift Orlando is and what the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl does in the community, it's as powerful a discussion as I've seen in my 20-plus years here talking to players when they arrive, and how many of them come up to you afterward and say, wow, I grew up in a neighborhood like that. This is amazing. So we can see some NIL ties. I think you see in the NFL this year where they allow those guys, special athletes, on their shoes. They're promoting philanthropy of their choice. Some of those things excite us, and so that's where I think you'll see that head. They're in business now. I think the athletes are in business now. They have clients. And we haven't yet seen that, I think, impact folks that are going to sit out for different reasons. They believe they're a top 5 or top 10 draft pick. But that's coming, right? I think the money will mature at some point to where it's a meaningful decision. But thankfully, I haven't heard a lot about opt-outs as much in this case. It seems like you're hearing kids even talk about, I want to put one more game on tape. I want them to see me play. I want to play with my brothers. You're starting to hear that again. It seems like it goes NIL aside. It's kind of cyclical. You may remember that was the prevailing opinion of players 8 or 10 years ago. And I'm starting to see that more in quotes about guys that said it's not even a consideration. I want to play my bowl game. So, NIL will hasten that, I hope, a little bit, but we'll participate that more, I think, in next year and beyond.
What about local businesses or even national businesses, Cheez-It, obviously, who are interested maybe in connecting with some of these athletes who are coming here to maybe for some opportunities locally in the next couple of weeks or so, whenever they're here?
Yeah, those are there. And again, these players have their own relationships in some cases. So in one of the bigger stages that you can play each year, I think those relationships are looking forward to them participating so they can activate that investment that they made. Again, we want to play a role in that. We want to do it with great thought before we just kind of jump in. I'm a big fan of all the players participating in some way. That gets hugely expensive depending on what that promotion looks like. But, you're going to see us get there. Just not this year at the level that I want to be in the future. Thanks, guys. Looking
Great,
forward
thanks.
to it.